Welcome to the December 6th, 2022 regular city council meeting. Would you please, actually Christy Osborne, counselor in Ward 4, she is going to lead the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Bergman.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Osborne.
Here.
Siebel.
Here.
Smock.
Here.
I'll take a motion to approve the December 6th, 2022 agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 5, approval of the November 15th, 2022 special meeting and regular meeting minutes.
Make that motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Osborne.
Yes.
Siebel.
Yes.
Smock.
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Dan Morgan is here with Lynch Dallas tonight, our attorney organization, and he wanted to discuss the rental program, maybe some different options. We kind of left it at last time that maybe just adding some language to help better, with the nuisances we have in the city.
Thank you, Mayor. So like I said, my name is Dan Morgan with Lynch Dallas, your city attorney's office. So I'm the guy that gets to deal with a lot of the nuisances and stuff in the cities that I work with. And so, I looked at kind of what you guys have in your city code. And of course, you have a very traditional nuisance abatement procedure, which most cities have. But in terms of rental regulation, you guys have none, basically. I mean, you have the standard nuisance stuff, but you don't have anything specifically dealing with rental regulations. And the mayor asked me about, looking if there was language that could be added to the nuisance code about rentals. To a certain extent, we wouldn't have to necessarily add anything. If there's exterior issues with the property, we could just treat them as we would any other nuisance property, right? So that would be one option. If the city wants to be more deliberate about its rental code, and this I think might be in some of your packets, but I also looked at actually a new ordinance for rental housing regulation, which is, and I took the example from the city of Palo, which is obviously smaller than you guys. They use this with relative success, and the reason why I chose this one is because it's not as robust as something that like Cedar Rapids or Des Moines or even Waterloo would have, right? Because that would be too much for you guys. So this one that they use is relatively straightforward. It does require that rental houses be registered. They charge an annual fee. You could you could do that. You could do a one-time fee. There's options there. It doesn't have to necessarily be an annual fee, but that's what they do. And then they issue what's called certificates of compliance, and those are good for 3 years. And then basically that just helps the city track where the rental properties are at, and then also in here gives the city the authority, when the rental compliance needs to be renewed, they can go in and take a look for an inspection, or if a city official or if there's a complaint about a rental property, the city can come in and do an inspection, and then either A, if the inspection passes, yay, great, happy day. If the inspection doesn't, then they can be given a notice that gives the landlord a certain time to comply and bring the property into compliance. And that's going to be exterior and interior type things. So heating, cooling, electricity, ventilation, general sanitary conditions sometimes come up with some regularity. And then of course, exterior could be anything from siding, roofing, stuff like that, sidewalks. If they don't comply, then the certificate of compliance can be suspended, which basically means they technically are not supposed to have any occupant in the rental property. So they either have to get it done, or we, the city, can go in and file a municipal infraction, have the tenant removed, which is, a dramatic step, of course, no doubt about that. It's no fun putting anybody out on the street. But the whole point is that the rental property itself is not safe for the person to be living in anyways. So there's, I don't know if you saw this or not, but it's long, it looks like 20 pages of ordinance, which is, a lot, but really the meat and potatoes of it are about the first 10 sections, and then the rest are boiled down regulations regarding heating, cooling, and stuff like that. And again, this is why I selected Palos, because even though there's lots of things listed there, it's more to the point than you would maybe see where they've city that's adopted all the precepts of the International Building Code or International Property Maintenance Code that has various lots and lots of different things. Now we could do that too. That'd be another option. And cut all this out and just say, for the purposes of our rental code, we adopt the International Property Maintenance Code, 2021 edition or whatever edition we want to go with, which would be fine. The problem I sometimes see, not the problem, but the challenge I see with that sometimes is when it's not in the code itself, when you're cross-referencing to a different document. That makes it harder sometimes for citizens to track and follow and see what has to be done. It's not impossible, it's just another step. So that would be another option in terms of rental housing regulation. So we could just kind of keep doing what we've got now. That's the first option, is just treating them as nuisance properties. Most of your nuisance code is primarily focused on the outside. It's not to say we can't go in, it's just that most of it's focused on outside things. And just treat them as nuisance properties. And then in that case, you would hit both the tenant and the landlord as defendants in a nuisance violation like that. You could go the route of looking at something like what Palo does with its rental housing regulations. And I should note a couple other key parts that are nice about the rental housing regulations or separate ordinance is that it allows you to, it gives you another basis to deal with rental properties if they're sold. And what I mean by that, we see with some regularity in cities we work with, is we go and get a nuisance violation against a rental property or a violation of a potential rental regulation ordinance. Okay, so we send the notice, they don't do anything, we file a municipal infraction, we're getting ready to court, who knows when court's going to be, and then they go and sell the house. And then the person coming in, then they say, well, I've washed my hands of it, it's not my problem, I can't be blah, blah, blah. And then the person coming in says, well, but I didn't create the nuisance, so who's going to be, and that's true to a certain extent, they didn't create the nuisance, but they stepped into it knowing that they would. But what this also does is it gives us an avenue to continue to go back after the previous landlord, because it requires them, when selling the property, to A, notify the city, and B, notify the potential buyer of if it's subject to a notice or violation or something like that. So we've seen that in the city of Clinton, which is one we work with, again, bigger than Evansdale, but a city with a lot of rental properties. So that's something that they use regularly to help try to kind of control nuisance rental properties. So it's really, and all it boils down to is another avenue of addressing rental properties. It gives the city a better idea of the number of rental properties it has, and gives them the ability to kind of control the overall conditions of these rental properties in a more direct way than the nuisance code, because you're just a little bit limited by what your regular nuisance code has. So that's this one. All right, so that's just dealing with a more traditional rental housing discussion. Another one that was included that I brought, just bringing as an example, is some cities are moving towards what they kind of refer to as chronic or sometimes criminal nuisance properties. And Chief may be familiar with some of these kind of things, because that's typically where I get it from. And what that is, and the example I provided is from the city of Postville, which is about 2,500 people that I work with. And in this type of statute or ordinance, they basically lay out 3 different levels of violations. So like step 1 is if you have one founded call of very serious crimes, right? So like kidnapping, manufacturing of controlled substances, arson, burglary, that kind of thing. If you have one violation of that, then what can happen is the city provides a notice to the landlord or to the owner of the occupant. It could be either or. If it's owner occupied, to the owner. If it's landlord occupied, or if it's landlord owned, to the landlord. It basically says you have 15 days, or whatever time frame we feel is appropriate, to provide us with your plan to deal with these types of chronic nuisance, criminal nuisance problems at your property. What that plan is going to be kind of up to them. They submit that plan typically to the chief of police, and then if they abide by that plan, then they're not charged. If they don't submit a plan or they don't abide by the plan, then every time law enforcement in particular is called back out to the property, we can begin charging for the fee, the gas, the time, stuff like that, and then assessing that against the property. And that's been not so much with the murder and the more serious ones, but a lot of times you get it down to this range of 3 or more founded calls, and what we're experiencing in our cities, they get the same call, the same property every other week. Whether it's drugs, fighting, drunk and disorderly, that kind of thing. The goal here is to not necessarily, well, let me be specifically, it is definitely not to punish victims of crime. There's language in here that says the victims of a potential crime, particularly like in a domestic type situation, cannot be punished under this ordinance. That's very clear. That's been something that is a big focus with these types of ordinances, to make sure that we're not doing that. But it gives us the ability to start deferring or diffusing some of that cost to the city every time the department goes out to deal with these properties. And of course, if they don't comply, we can continue to use the municipal infraction process and go in and find them that way. But really, all that avenue does is just gives us another avenue. It would be part of, not part of it, but it's kind of in the nuisance realm of your code, that just gives the city another avenue to try to recoup some of its costs in dealing with chronic nuisance properties. Now, we have several cities that have these types of ordinances. The one I provided is from, like I said, Postville, and I've only had 2 of these types of notices that's come in. So they don't use it a lot, and I think it is used pretty sparingly, but it's something that I know most of the law enforcement I work with like to have. So it's a little bit different, but it's just another thing that I thought I should bring to your attention while we're talking about this conversation of rental properties, what you guys want to do with it. So with that, I'll finally stop talking, as I'm sure everyone here is happy to have. And if you have any questions, or kind of if you have direction for me or what you'd like to see done.
The only question that I'm gonna make sure that we clear up is we can currently address these nuisance properties, whether they're rental or tenant owner or occupied or owner occupied, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. So the business or the inspector said last meeting that he was not able to on rental properties.
Well, you can go. And I think, and unfortunately I don't have the email right in front of me, but I believe the question was perhaps a bit more nuanced than that. But do you recall exactly what it was? I know it was.
Well, we just added that, Christy, to our code.
So then
We would be able to address the tenant as
but
well.
even previously, just to address the tenant, but he was saying he has no right to step on the property at all if it's tenant owned or occupied. I'm sorry, I keep on saying tenant owned.
He can't go inside, is what he said.
Yeah, it was not
it's
be able to go
nuisance,
into the inside, right?
Well-
the outside we
The tenant calls
can.
him.
So it's
Yeah.
it's nuisance properties, which is exactly the exterior of the property.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's not what he was saying, though. He was saying that there's issues with like electricity and plumbing and stuff, and if the tenant calls, he can't go in unless the landlord tells him he can't.
We can handle it from the outside with our current code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we had a problem with rental property,
We have.
What is the problem?
Steve has went out to several.
We don't even know how many we have.
Yeah.
That's the problem I see. And then when we try to enforce anything, we've had issues to where we couldn't even enforce any type of ordinance back to them because we couldn't even find the landlord. Because again, we didn't even know who it
Yeah.
was. So
Yeah.
the reason I brought
Yeah.
this up, and again, is I do want to be clear. I am not here to try to make it any more cumbersome. I do understand it will involve some level of additional step to current landlords because at a minimum, they would have to do some sort of registration, with or without cost. And I'm not saying we charge. I'm not trying to make money off of this.
you can get that off of from the county.
Sort of. He already brought it up to say when it gets sold or moved or they died and it never gets updated. We've had that happen already. We can't track them down. So this gives us some level of at least knowing where they're at. And again, not even trying to charge for it. I just simply want to know where they are. And then if we have a problem, we know who to get a hold of. Because right now we don't have anything that says, can we even just get a registration? The assessor's office is a great place to start. We've got a good chunk of them, but that isn't all of them.
To me, it'd be the same thing as knowing where everybody's car, see if they own
That's what the license plates are for. You can run that.
it.
We can't run the rental
license plate,
properties.
You can also get the address and call the county and get who owns the house.
And then when that's not accurate, we can't do anything.
Well,
When your
the
license
owner,
plate's not accurate,
Whoever gets the tax bill is the owner.
yeah, whoever got it, and that's if it was up to date.
It should be up to date no matter what. It should never not be.
I would agree, but
There's
that's
no
not the
way that
case.
we can't
They're
have
not
it.
though.
Yep, that's
You have
the
to
problem.
file if the warranty deed is not filed with the state or the county, then the person who the previous warranty deed was is the owner, period. Until you see that warranty deed, that recorded warranty deed. And so,
But
that's
we had
the person we go back to.
we had a specific case, if you don't mind me sharing, on West Gilbert, just down from me, and the people that were actually the property owners were both deceased.
Well, then did it fall into a trust?
We had to
or was
hire
it
an-
an estate?
We had to hire our attorney to find who was in charge.
Who would be the heir?
Yeah,
Well, that would be probably a rare situation, though.
yeah, it happens not more than you
Yeah,
think.
I wish it was more rare.
I'm in it, and that's the business I'm in. I mean, I know it doesn't. You know, they have to. I mean, any real property out there either has to go through a probate, or if like if there's somebody that both parents are deceased or people are deceased, then either it goes to the state or the county or whatever, and then or it goes to the person who gets the property. And then they should update it. Now, if they don't update it, then you obviously have to go through some research to try to figure out who needs to do it, which sounds like what you had to do on Gilbert.
Yeah,
Somebody's paying the taxes. I mean, that's whether it's an abandoned property, and then they surely know that. It's,
Yeah.
is there no different if you got a renter in there or a tenant-owned house? It's still registered, and the name of the owner of that house is the county has it. And if there's a problem there and the tenant don't fix it up, sure, call the county and go after the.
This also would give us additional leverage.
Yeah.
I would say even as a
where's
second
the
stage.
problem? I don't see a problem on there.
So, and you may not with your properties. The other properties that are out there,
Yeah, but I really don't see a lot of them in town. There's a few. But not a
yeah,
whole lot.
there's a good chunk is the issue,
And most
we
of
can,
them that I see that's real crappy is owner occupied.
And typically,
and it goes both ways.
yeah, it is. It can be owner occupied. I think that you have crappy ones, but there might be ones that are tenant occupied that are crappy. But you know what? You go to the owner or the tenant. You send them that nuisance ticket. They don't fix it up. Then I don't know if we can reach out to the owner or whatever. You keep on giving them a ticket. I don't feel like putting more ordinances in place are going to resolve this. It would help with maybe the criminal ones, which Dallas was speaking of.
The second piece.
But at that point, as a landlord, I'd want to know anyway, because I'd kick their butts out because I don't want them in our town.
It's
So-
a lot easier said than done.
Oh yeah.
And we have no proof of insurance, so is the city liable if there's problems?
we'll
for
have
private
public
property.
discussion
Yeah.
after this.
Waterloo has had that in force for how many years? They've never once in all of that time inspected one of my properties. So to me, it's a money grab.
But I don't want to charge for it. I'm here to state on the record, I don't want to charge for
And
this.
agree
I
with
simply
Justin.
just want to
I
have
think
visibility.
we just need to have some teeth in an ordinance to be able to
You have the
enforce.
same teeth in the ordinance if it's a tenant owned or it's a
Yeah,
rental
it's the
property.
same as a tenant owner.
There's no difference. You go after the owner.
From the exterior. And that's what I said, to at least get the registration, we could go on to a second phase, and that's where it would look additionally. Because right now, the tenant versus the landlord is all back and forth between them. So the tenant has no rights. I know there is a rights of tenants and saying to it, but for the city to be able to help with anything that could potentially be causing issues. And it kind of goes back to the same thing of the speed limit.
What's the difference if an owner occupied property, his furnace don't work, or a tenant's furnace don't work? The tenant will move out.
It's their choice.
Or
to
you
move
get
out
more
now.
recourse there than you do with a,
They're making money off of it.
and you're what?
The renter, the person, the landlord's making money off of it.
Hopefully, yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes.
So they should also make sure that their property is kept up to code.
Yeah.
It's a business now.
But
It's
then-
not your own home.
And an owner occupied too, the same deal should be them.
Sure, but I'm not making money off
Let
of
it
my
run
home.
down.
And then anytime we pull permits for anything to do anything, then it gets checked.
No, see, I think it's a money grab as far as the city and.
But if we're not charging for it, how is it a money grab? That's what I don't follow.
Well, then you're sticking your nose into businesses I don't think that you need to stick it into.
For public safety?
Different people live different than you or I or
Sure.
somebody. And,
But if you don't have working smoke detectors,
who am I supposed to, well, I got working smoke detectors in my house too, but probably 3 of them, the batteries are dead in them right
Sure,
now.
but that's under your control, right?
Yeah,
But
So-
it's
and
under.
so is the other property, it's under their control. When I have a renter, they furnish the batteries in, I don't go over.
Mhm.
When I rent the house out, it's got new batteries, everything like that, and it's up to them to maintain it. I don't
Sure.
keep buying batteries.
And that's, what about the scenario where a landlord doesn't put smoke detectors in at all?
Well, they have to.
Well,
that's
But
requirement.
how do we
How
know?
we
How do we
that
know?
they've done it?
How do you know
yeah,
they're
but I
done
don't
in
know
the
that you
tenant's
have them in
house?
your own house. How am I going to know that? Do I want to come into your house and inspect your house? I'm not going to inspect your house just because.
But
you
it's-
know, I
But
don't
we're talking
know.
about it, we're talking about a rental property.
A
Yeah,
business.
but a rental property and an owner-occupied property is no different to me. I mean, you're gonna do what you need. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do, even in an owner-occupied or in a tenant property.
But it's a
Or-
business. We have the authority over businesses in town. We can go in and do fire inspections in any business here in town.
But this is a home. It's not really a business.
It is a business.
It's someone's home, but it is
It's a
the
home.
landlord's business.
So the issue you have is that we're making money?
That is what I don't want to do.
No, he's asking, are the landlords making money?
It sounds
Right.
like the issue you have is that we're making money as landlords.
As far as the difference between an owner-occupied versus someone who is renting,
Right.
is that it's a
As you
business.
addressed it, as the councilman was discussing it, you said, well, it's business, they're making
Mhm.
money. So that sounds like that's the issue to you. So the premise is that we want to go after this because you guys are making money.
No.
And
Oh,
I realize
okay.
you say you don't want to make money off of it. You don't want to charge for it, but what about the next councilman that comes in and takes your place? Eventually, that's the problem with this, is, in my view, is it starts out with just little checks and balances, but eventually it grows and becomes more of an overreach.
Sure, and that's fair.
And
That's
I've
definitely
seen
fair.
Waterloo do it, I've seen lots of other cities do it. I'm on the fence about this whole issue because I do agree that problem landlords need to take care of the property.
Right.
I do agree that if there's illegal activity, it needs to be addressed.
Mhm.
But I also have property of my own, and I feel like councils go after this a lot, largely because they're making money. The landlords are making money, and as you said, you don't want to charge money for it right now, but 2 years from now, let's say we have a new council, and they've already kind of put some of these rules in place. Now let's add a little more to it. Let's start charging.
Sure, and that's fair. I can see that point of view, for
And
sure.
I also think that tenants need to take responsibility too. If you don't have a working fire detector in there, then don't move in, or call the landlord and tell him. If the landlord doesn't fix it, then you can report them to whoever. I don't know what the proper way is, but then you can do it. And if you don't like that, move out.
Well, and that is my question then,
You know?
and this is my ignorance. What is the statute when cities don't have the regulations in place that they can go do any type of surveys to where we do get a complaint about an unlivable condition?
Dan just answered that. Go ahead.
So the best option you have right now under your ordinance is Chapter 50 of your Code of Ordinances, which is just your basic nuisance stuff. Now, you guys at some point, I'm not sure when, I promise I wasn't just texting, I was looking up your code, did expand your list of different types of nuisances to be a little bit more robust than some, which, so you do have some stuff in here about, get up to it, sorry, windows, making sure exterior surfaces are taken care of, points of egress and ingress are safe and made to applicable design standards, like I said, windows and doors, structure, sound, exterior walls, exposed surface, drainage, gutters, roofing materials. So at some point, some language was kind of added in here that I would say similar to property maintenance type code information. What I don't see though would be something like electrical, smoke detectors and stuff like that. So to answer your question, you would report it to the city. Steve could go out and do an inspection. He could do, if the tenant and or owner don't give authority to enter the home, we would have to apply for what's called an administrative search warrant, which is signed by a judge, go in and do that. And he could cite them for these things. He's limited to what the code provides. So if there are missing smoke detectors and it's not in here, he can't cite for it. You know, if there's other issues that are here, he can cite for it. But there's not a lot in here in terms of interior stuff other than a couple of things about, like I said, ingress, exterior wall stuff, fencing, but there's not, plumbing, heating, cooling, ventilation, that's not in your current code.
If you're
So-
gonna do that kind of stuff in inspection, it should be citywide, everybody's house. You should go in everybody's house and inspect it, because why just rental property?
Yeah, I don't think that it's fair that you pick on the landlords. Now, I don't get me wrong, because if there is a house out there that a landlord is not taking care of, shame on them and they should be, fixed. I
Well, we
get
got
it.
codes to
But
cover that
if
already.
that's the same with your neighbor that's not taking care of their house and it's crappy, or your neighbor or your neighbor, and you can't. I don't feel like you should separate that. I think, you know what, if someone's not taking care of a house, they're not taking care of a house. And if the tenant calls up and says, I've asked this landlord to fix this smoke detector 5 times, can you have Steve come out and look at it? And if Steve comes out and he cites them and, they say, okay, this smoke detector don't work, then, the owner can fix it, or should fix it.
But
And
that's
then
where
Steve can come
he was
out.
saying he can't go into the property without the land.
Yeah, the tenant
so-
can complain about it, and the tenant can.
So-
clarification.
Yep, I need
Yeah,
clarification.
so that's not correct, quite frankly. So anybody that has lawful authority to be on the property can give consent to enter the property, which would be a tenant under the Fourth
Okay.
Amendment. It's the same Fourth Amendment regulation like peace officers would have. So the tenant can give authority to enter the property. Now that might upset the landlord, and I don't know what they put in their contracts. If a landlord says, "Well, you can't in my contract," it's still not going to matter. But I can see how the landlord might get upset about that if they say, "Well, you can't let law enforcement or someone onto the property without my consent." I mean, that's not enforceable because, again, Fourth Amendment dictates. So we could go in with the tenant's permission.
Okay, and that takes a big portion away, and I'm with you. Again, I'm not, and Chief Dean, thank you for your insight as well, because I am not looking to be the overreach governmental figure and how things can get warped later on. So that's a great point. I appreciate that.
We want occupancy standards too.
Yes, but
It should be forever.
as an owner, that's my property. It's me. It's on me to maintain, and I 100% agree. Everyone should be at that same standard.
And
The difference of the renter. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Councilman. I just wanted to clarify, and maybe I think what was part of the confusion before was that your code, and online it still does. I think you guys just recently changed it. It says property owner, and I think that was where the hang-up was, is the owner gets the notice of violation. So I think Steve read that as the owner, controls the property. Reasonable understanding, but I think now that you guys have changed that to be the owner and or the tenant or the first party in possession, that should clarify any confusion.
So then my second point would be addressed already. My only, really, to kind of summarize quickly, my only remaining concern out of this as far as why we would need a rental program, or if it's even needs to be stated to at least start, is really just the accountability to know what we have in town. So again, I'm not looking to charge a fee, but simply just a list so that we know who owns that property. I do agree, it should be correct in the county assessors. But I have been involved a few times. I know the mayor's been involved, and we're starting to put teeth into these nuisance abatements. And we're just going to spend more legal fees trying to track people down if it's not accurate.
Well, and even
So
the
where's
assessors
that?
aren't instant either. I mean, when I bought 2 years ago, it took 6 months before it updated.
Yeah, some counties are a lot slower but Black Hawk's a lot faster.
Yeah. So that's my main concern then, is just simply knowing what we have for rental properties. No different than what you should be able to look it up on the assessor's office.
Yeah, and again, I go back to Ron's point on that. That's like wanting to know how many cars I have. You guys would be surprised about how many cars I have. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think that we should have a list of rental properties. I think they should be treated the same. Rentals and owner occupied. I don't think you need to have a list. It's just having it so I think you can find most of that information out on the assessor's page.
If there's a problem at any house in town, all you gotta do is go to the county and you can find out who the owner is.
And that's what we're saying. It doesn't work like that always. And then we have to spend additional dollars and resources, as the mayor just stated.
If the county has to give you who the owner is,
They do. Doesn't mean it's accurate. That's the problem. Doesn't mean it was accurate.
It's probably accurate 90%.
They're sending the tax bill and somebody's paying the taxes that didn't own it.
I'm just giving you the examples that I have been involved with, and then the mayor gave us another. So that's all I'm
My
saying.
question is, talking to Steve a couple times, and I'm not a landlord, but for the record, is that we have a part-time guy out here, building inspector, enforcing ordinances now. I don't know how you go about saying he's gonna drive around and say, I know they got bad electrical, they got bad windows, I'm gonna go in there and check the plumbing. He's told me that he's not gonna go out and research things, only nuisance that would come to him would he maybe intervene. So I think, couldn't it be a simplification of that occurs with a situation that gives him the authority through somehow to go in and check that particular location?
Well, and
see
that's
what's
what
going.
the attorney just
But
said.
why do we need
if
to-
the tenant does initiate it, then Steve can go on there. I mean, and he just clarified that for us.
And I don't think our fellow that's on staff here has the time to take this on and do this full-fledged. Like I've heard about 700 rental houses, $400 a year in property taxes. I don't believe it, but I'd like to see it. I'd like to see some proof if that's true. Then I might think a little different on it. But I'm just thinking the accountability for his job, part-time, and what we're talking about. You're talking a massive thing here, and I'm with Justin about not charging any funds at all, period. But I think it's something we need to kind of think about and review about, and maybe get a little more information to see how much of this we got going on. If we got 3 or 4 cases, if we got 30 or 40 cases, what do we really have going on in this community that's causing this? That's what I'd like to see.
Good discussion. Again.
Okay. Thank you for attending. We'll get back to you on our next step
Okay.
later.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, thanks
All right.
for coming.
Thank you, Dan.
And thank you for letting me sneak out. I've got a difficult 2-year-old or 4-year-old that's
That's totally
making
fine.
bedtime hard.
We understand. We've all been there, done that. Next on our agenda, number 7, public discussion. If you'd come up to the podium, please please state your name and your address.
Hello, I'm Jerry McAdamski, and I live at 110 Doyle in Evansdale, Iowa. And I am a landlord. And a lot of the items that Mr. Nichols brought up were absolutely correct. I don't believe it was as harsh as what they are, but that is correct. And a lot of what this gentleman over here in the green, I can't read your name, sorry.
That's right.
Are also correct. I have just a little quick proposal. I could tell you a couple of horror stories. One of my tenants tried to roast a goat in the garage. I had no legal recourse to stop him from doing that. Believe it or not, as a landlord, I couldn't stop that. His culture, that's what they did. And without it being listed in my paperwork, I could not stop it. I did, since then, enact a policy with all of my rentals that there's a crime-free addendum on them, and if the police are ever called, it's grounds for eviction. It can only be held up if the tenant has an issue, and if that is the tenant's issue, I can evict them. That's as simple as that. It's not as simple as that, but I can do it.
You gotta go to court.
Yeah, you got to take it to court. Yeah,
And it costs a lot of money.
it costs some. I've got several horror stories, but you learn from those horror stories and what not to do.
Right.
I pay the fee in Waterloo, $25 per house for rentals. I have been inspected twice. I have six houses there.
I've never been inspected.
One of them,
17.
the one inspection passed, no problem whatsoever. The other one, I failed a railing, had been removed by the tenant, which I didn't know. So, yep, I had to go back, put the railing back in, and I charged the tenant $50 for my time. The tenant just screamed to high heaven, I'm sorry, you can move out, well, otherwise you're going to pay it. And I didn't need the $50. I just needed that tenant to realize they can't remove smoke alarms, they can't remove safety railings, they can't do those things,
Right.
And I sound very harsh, even from my wife's viewpoint. Oh, I can't believe you charged her that. I can't believe she took it off,
Right.
I can.
Yeah, because it was there to protect
So
them.
there are things like that
Right.
that we as landlords can do, and we do sound very mean when we're doing them. I have that landlord voice at times, But one of the things that you brought up, or that Dallas brought up, which I thought was a good idea, was a gold certificate standard for landlords. Those that want to participate, great, right? Sign me up. Those that don't want to, don't force them to.
Okay.
And then if somebody calls to town and says, do you have a good rental population, that kind of stuff? We do. We also promote gold standards. Here's a gold standard. Hey, if you got 400 landlords or 400 properties in town, and 25 of them are on this gold standard program, and they meet all the speculations or stipulations that you guys want to have done, and are regularly inspected and maybe pay a $25 a year fee or something like that, then that sets a standard for your city and for the landlords and the rentals in your city. So
that is a great point.
that's an idea.
Yeah.
That is a great point. Thank you,
I like
Jerry.
it.
That's it.
No,
Thank you, Jerry.
very much.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
yeah.
Yep. We can either put a list of them on our website, so.
Yeah,
Make it
but-
voluntary.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like everything Jerry had to say there. I thought that was great. And I
Your name, please,
Yep.
and your
Sorry.
address.
Sorry, Laura, come on.
Laura Benson, Michigan Avenue, or Michigan Drive, Evansdale. I just want to, real quick, bring something to your attention. Not all of our houses in this community are built with modern day fire safety standards. I'm sure you know this. For instance, one of the issues that came up in my neighborhood is the house next door to me and the house next door to that house are very close together. There might be possibly 6 foot between the bedroom windows between the two houses. Okay, one year the pipes burst in this house, and honestly, the pipes have burst in this house next door to me every year that I've lived there. One year, and I was just shocked. I couldn't believe that this happened. They put hay all the way around the house to insulate the pipes to keep them from freezing again. But in the middle of January, it's really dry out, and we have New Year's Eve fireworks going off. And if their house was to catch one of those random bottle rockets in that hay, it was going to go up in flames in a matter of seconds. And being so close to the other neighbor, now we're risking somebody that is a homeowner that's got a generational home on their 3rd generation, and their property means a lot to them, a lot more than it does to the guy that's renting next door in between us. So that's just one issue. The other issue is, because of issues like that, as a homeowner in this community, and I think Justin would agree with me, when you're that close to a situation that could potentially come up, there's no proof of insurance anywhere. We have no idea if the house next door to me has any insurance. So if it does catch on fire, if it does have issues where something happens and it affects my home, which is less than 50 feet away, what am I going to do about it?
Report it to your insurance?
Yeah, to my insurance. But my insurance isn't going to cover all of the smells, all of the... Right now we've got tires piled up. It's been back there for about 15, 20 years, from what I understand, and longer than I've lived there.
Their insurance won't cover anything for yours.
No,
matter
it
what,
won't.
even if they have it covered.
Right.
So that's a moot point.
It's not... Well, if you want to talk about moot points, we can talk about moot points on another issue.
Okay, time's up. We got 3 minutes, and Christy, no offense, but please don't interrupt her when she's up there.
Sorry.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Perfect. I wasn't thinking that.
Yeah. Okay.
Start at 3 minutes, sounds good. Be flexible.
Sandy Clements, 143 East End Avenue. One point that hasn't been brought up in this discussion is if there is a tenant who is in a bad house, they cannot, it's not as simple for them always to have an option, a solution, if their landlord is not willing to fix things. Because many times, especially to your lower income situations, it took all their money to be able to afford to move into that house.
Sure.
And so by reporting to their landlord, and the landlord refuses to take care of things, they really feel trapped, that they have no option to go to anybody else, because if they do, their landlord many times is vindictive and evicts them.
Yeah.
And they have no money to move to another place, or very easily. Moving is very expensive.
Yes.
And that, I think, needs to be considered too, because if you don't have something in place that has some teeth to protect many of the tenants in this community. They're trapped where they are, in a dump.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yep. Well, when it comes to the rental program, we will have it on an agenda to see how we're going to proceed. That will probably be, I'm going to say, sometime in January. Just review the ordinances that he has given you. Maybe one or two of you visit about it, as long as there's not more than 3, and see what you'd like to do, or maybe what we can add to our current ordinances to be beneficial for both types of renter in this city.
Yeah, I get the thing, you're picking on renters, and owner-occupied houses are probably worse shape than most rental properties in this town. It's, I can point more property owners if they don't keep their house up, and of course, I don't know where all the rental properties are and how many there are, but,
yeah.
I don't see, what I do see is the owner is living there.
Yeah.
On the majority of cases, I don't know all of them, but.
I think it's just the problem children ones that we're talking about, but then all of the people have to pay for the problem children ones, because like any landlord that I know right now, they take good care of their properties, right? But it's the ones that are not.
That's it. Christy, that's how ordinances come about.
That's how all rules come about.
Why I'm like,
Yeah.
I do not want to put any more
In a
ordinances
perfect
to place
society,
for
we wouldn't have to have
for people,
Yeah.
for those things. That's why I'm like saying I don't want to start doing that, because just because there's 1 officer, 2 officer, 50, like I don't.
Yeah.
And Ron, I agree. So I'm sorry, Christy. I didn't
No. I'm not like, I don't want to say that I don't want these houses taken care of, because I don't want people in bad houses, but these people have a choice, but some of them are like what Sandy said, they're less fortunate, but, I don't, my heart goes out to those people, but you have to make that decision when you're looking at those houses, and if those people aren't going to, if they're moving into something that is rat infested or whatever, they should really consider not doing that, because I know that might be the only thing that they can afford, but if it is and they're moving in, that's how it was. They should really think about not doing that. And hopefully Evansdale doesn't have that many. I know we have probably some, obviously, but I wouldn't want to see that in any case.
And Ron, I was going to say, I agree with you. We have just as many owner-based homes that have problems and stuff, and I am not excluding them. Where I do see is we've started on them, and what I wanted to make sure is, can we do it the same way for any of the rental properties? Can we track them down? I am definitely not trying to be too big of an inconvenience to any landlord, because there are good ones and bad ones.
The city should condemn it.
So, oh yeah, that can go all the way around, no matter who lives in it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But I also understand, and again, Chief Dean, I guess out of his chief role, the criminal piece is great. There are some properties in town that I'm sure Chief can hopefully attest to that are those criminal-based ones that have brought some less than ideal residents to our community. I mean, I hate to say that, and I want to see all great homes here in our community, but it's brought some folks that have brought some baggage with them, and it's caused problems. That's not something I feel that at least I want, and hopefully the citizens would agree. The other side of it then as well that he brought up is, I'm certainly not looking for government to reach into every aspect of what is your property. I absolutely can respect that. I love Mr. Macadonsky, so thank you for bringing up. I love that concept of the golden certificate of a voluntary program. So that is where I think I'm going to continue my time, is at least, this isn't going to be a quick fix. We're not going to get it right on the first, second, or third try. That's why we're talking about it over time. I just feel we need to be able to do something. And the attorney tonight also allowed us to where now I know if a tenant has a problem, the city can help them. Now, it may not be ideal, as Sandy brought up, to where they may fear repercussions and have nowhere else to go, so I get that. But it at least gives me something more that we didn't have 2 weeks ago when we talked.
Right.
That's what you got Section 8 for,
So
Yeah, and now though those people have options because we did enhance our ordinance to show, you know, so they can call down here.
Exactly.
And they can go inspect it, and then they can call the slumlord
Yep.
and have them fix it.
Yep, because I agree, it goes both ways. I want to make sure landlords are living up to their responsibility just as much. I want to be able to empower landlords to let their tenants live up to their responsibility. I'm not trying to single out either side because there's bad apples and everything.
Great conversation, guys.
Yes, thank you.
I'll do it again sometime.
In 2 weeks.
January for that one.
Dan, there is agencies in town that can help people that, you know, move into a bad property or anything. County Relief is one for sure, and they have temporary housing too. If someone is in a position or if a house burns or if there's, you know, open sewer lines or something like that, they can be turned into County Relief. County Relief will come in and notify the house and the landlord, and they'll find temporary housing for the tenant until the problem gets fixed. So,
Okay.
so that is available.
Like that's Operation Threshold,
Like I
right?
say,
That's part of it.
threshold.
County Relief is
Yeah,
over
That's
here.
what I
I've
thought.
had a few like call me on like wanting tenants in the home. Not
If
the
you don't
thing
tear
wrong.
all the houses down that you don't like, then your tax rates are gonna go sky high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 8, approval of the consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 9, approval of the resolution calendar. Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Smock.
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Siebel.
Yes.
Number 10 is a request to approve the agreement with Blackhawk County Conservation for the Cedar Valley Stormwater Partnership with a term of July, 1st, 2023 through 26, June 30th of 26. We've been part of this program, I think, for 3 years already. We do give $411, I think, to the program now. This is part of our compliance for our stormwater management. So, because we have to be in partnership with them, I'll take a motion to
Is that
approve.
411 for the 3 years total, or 411?
It's been
Per year.
411 a year.
A year.
Is it 4? Or did it go up?
414.
Oh, it's 414 now?
That's what the sheet said.
Okay, good. Thank you. So now it's going to be 414 a year until June 30th of 26.
I'd make a motion to approve that request for the $414 to Blackhawk County Conservation Cedar Valley Stormwater Partnership.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Request from Public Works Director to repair tarping arm on 2006 Freightliner in the amount of $1,079 with Don's Truck Sales. We did receive a $500 safety grant, as this is a safety issue on our Freightliner, that will go towards that. So once all said and done, it's only going to be $679 once we receive that
So moved.
grant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Request from Chief Dean to repair 2013 Charger in the amount of $1,729.66. A couple weeks ago, I had put a request out to go ahead and approve this because some of it was very urgent, especially the tires. I did not get a quorum, so I'm bringing it to the agenda for discussion. We have since parked the Charger and are now utilizing the Tahoe. What I would like to know is what would you like us to do with this car, because it can't be sold as is.
So are we gonna sell it? We are gonna sell it, right?
We are eventually going to sell it, yes.
Like, is it within the next month? Like, when that email came out, I thought it was gonna be sold like in December or January this year. So if it is, then I'd be like, well, let's get the repairs done, except for the tires, because why need to put tires on it, because it's gonna sit there.
Right.
But the repairs are safety, you know, like, so that's my thought process on it, but I don't know, because I thought we parked it and took the Tahoe out or something. I don't know.
We are driving the Tahoe now. Yes,
it's
that
like-
is correct.
And
I mean, and we can put it out for bid. The items on that repair order need to be replaced. However, we don't have to put the Pursuit rated tires on there.
Yeah.
We can find a lower rated tire, since, someone is not going to be using that for Pursuit.
I guess
But I wanted direction.
my feeling on it, Mary, you and I have talked.
Yep.
My impression always is we were going to get rid of the Charger, and a lot of dialogue we've always had. I know what the last one brought. So my question is, why do we want to, I guess the only way that I would put my vote to do this is if we're going to spend that money on that car, we sell it immediately. I don't want it in service. I don't want any more repair bills coming up. I don't want any more framework. I don't want any more nothing. I'd want the car to be brought down here to City Hall and sold as soon as these repairs are done, if I authorize the payment on it. Christie talked about the tires. If we don't have the right kind of tires on the car, I'm in the impression that it can't be on the street and highway speed and chases and all that kind of stuff.
Right. That's
and we're
correct.
not consensus to wanting to buy that kind of tire. So I think it makes financial sense to get rid of the car. I could even bend to fix the car, put regular tires on it, bring it up here and put it on the market for sale, get rid of it. Then take any chance of anything going on again, and then we got something else to look at a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road that we got more expensive. That car has been a dead horse for ages, and I don't think we need it on the street patrolling or being used. The whole concept of this was when we talked to Officer Dean, that they decided apparently to keep the Tahoe in service and park the Charger. And then the repairs come up, and then we've kind of been in a debate about the repairs. And I'm not for fixing the car at all, but I would compromise if we're going to sell it immediately and do some of the repairs on that car.
I would sell it as is, because I doubt you're gonna get $1,700 out of it if you put 17 in it.
No, I agree with that,
For
Ron.
13, that's an old car, and I can't, because I doubt you'd even get that much out of it.
Well, here's my other comeback to that, Ron, is, and I talked with the mayor. We had a conversation, and I'm sure she did with Chief Dean, that we're gonna order a new vehicle. We understand the situation of selling this or not fixing this or whatever, and the Tahoe in service, and apparently they don't want the Tahoe in service because I see it parked more than it's used on the Durangos, and that's fine. So the whole concept was, okay, we're not gonna do this anymore, but we'll talk about and authorize a new pickup earlier than we originally talked. So that's where I thought the story was at. I don't know why it's so different today than it was a while back myself, but it's up to all 5 people.
Yeah, it's up to all 5 people. That's why it's coming to.
Okay.
That's why it's coming to the council. It's I've talked to you. I've talked to Justin. I've talked to Jeff Bergman, and Christy and I have emailed each other back and forth. I would not feel comfortable, but again, I would like council's opinion by selling it without putting tires on it. Because the tires, it says right on there, they need to be replaced.
I would make a motion where we sell it as is and don't put nothing on it.
Did we already get some of the repair work done on it?
We had the AC work done this past summer.
No, I'm talking about part of this repair. But
We didn't have anything done.
okay. I didn't.
It's parked.
Okay.
Because a 13, I doubt, is worth much more than that anyway. And why put that much in and take a chance on somebody gonna give you $500 for it?
Well, I think the last one that we sold, it went for $3,000 or $4,000. I don't know if it was a 2013, but and I think that if we
I think it was 11.
was it?
Yeah.
I mean, I would feel better if we sold it, putting the suspension parts on it at least, because those are, like, to me, safety issues. Because, like, I don't know, I broke a tie rod driving down the road before, and it, stops you quick. But I don't want somebody to turn around and try to sue the city. Yes, I have old cars that break us down.
My only thing is you can put this much money in it and start it up tomorrow and something else blows the hell on it.
Well, that's why you fix it, you park it, and you sell it.
That's what I say, park it and sell it the way it is.
But do you think that somebody, if we could sell it, I don't even, like, if we tried to sell it the way it is, I don't think we would get more than $1,000 or $2,000 from it, if that.
That may be $500 more than you'll get if you put this in it. That's my opinion. I don't, because I think a car that old, I don't know what cars they're selling for, but I wouldn't give you $1,700 for a 13 if it didn't even have any rust on it.
So what's the amount if we just do the suspension parts?
450, 246, and 138.
About 700.
So yeah, 4,
But
6,
the
7,
most
8,
important thing on
850.
there was the tires. That we don't have to put pursuit tires on it. That was number one thing that needed to be replaced, is the
Why don't
tires.
we not fix it, market it for as is what it is, and if it sits and we're not getting any bites, because we're gonna be honest, then we can decide if that goes dead horse, we can decide to put some money in it, and then we don't have to tell people it's as is.
Save another $2,000 worth of tires on it.
I mean, that's an option to do too, to see if we can unload it without going any deep. We might be able to get a couple thousand, 2,500 out of it the way it is. I don't know. I'm not a mechanic. But it's just an option to, we've put a lot of money in that car. I've tracked that car for a long time and it's time to go. It's
How
just
many
time.
miles? How many miles are on it?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
It's got a newer engine, right? But
It
it's
should
an
be on
old
that
body.
quote.
Oh, it does?
Justin.
And so I'm just trying to look through, see if they have miles stated or not.
Okay.
That's the license plate.
Do you remember if we put a new engine in that? Yes.
That was the one that you said we did. That you had checked with Deary, actually.
I mean, I guess I'm like, it's 1,200 without tires and 1,700 with roughly.
It's $500 for tires. Tires aren't bad, in my
Not like-
opinion.
That'd make
I
that
guess-
car 20 years old.
Yeah.
So then, many people are gonna give you too much for a 20-year-old car.
20
It's
years.
9 years old.
Yeah, it's 9 rounds.
It's a 2013.
Not a 2003.
I was just gonna say, I'm like, wait a minute.
My age is-
I was gonna say, I was like, my math isn't that much off, is it? Good thing I'm not an accountant. Yeah, I don't have miles on it. It doesn't look like.
Well, the invoice might.
That's what I was looking through.
Oh.
He does it. It's
Yeah, we're
not-
$500 for tires, which then, yeah, Christy, you're right. The rest of it would be about $1,200 for the mounts, control arms, tension struts, tie rods.
Those are, I mean, I don't know, I just feel like you need to replace them, but, I mean, if you can sell them as is, you can sell it as is, but I just think that at least the suspension parts should be, I mean, I've driven around a car with bald tires, and, you know, like, if it's not the police driving it, and it's just a normal person, that's on them, you know, they need to get new tires, they need to get new tires, but the suspension parts and stuff, I feel like if that breaks, they could potentially, you know.
I think we're gonna fix it all up, and we might as well keep it.
I think I'm in agreement with Mr. Siebel on just parking it and then attempting to sell it as is.
Jesus, where are you going? No, I'm not. Jeff, I apologize.
Yeah.
What's your...
I'm in agreement with you, Steve. I think we could, at this point, just park it and try to sell it as is, and if we don't get any bites, then I guess we'll have to.
Is that your
address
motion?
There's a motion on the floor still.
Well, I guess I'm gonna make the
Okay.
motion not to do this.
We have a
I
motion.
think I think he started. I think
He had a
Councilor
motion.
Nichols started.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
He had a motion to sell it.
Second.
You know,
So-
Just to
sell
sell.
it as is. That's what you're saying, isn't
To
it?
try to sell it.
Yeah.
All right, so are you seconding his
I'll
motion?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Should we put a time frame on that though?
Oh, Lord.
I think it's gonna sit there for a while. Sorry. Well, we can look at it again.
It's-
Yeah, we might
Sorry.
have decided to do something.
It'll be on the next agenda to
Put it up.
put it out for bid.
Yep.
And we will be specific. We will have a copy of the repair bill with that notice. Number 13, since we're kind of moving forward with this whole process and we don't know how long it's going to get the next vehicle, I put request from Chief Dean to purchase a 2023 Dodge Durango in the amount of $41,726 to be delivered sometime after July 1st of 2023 in our next budget. However, that being said, I also put in the packet, it had been also requested that I get prices on trucks, and there's also a quote in there on a 2023 Dodge, Ram 1500. So I did call the dealership, Stu Hansen dealership, regarding that Dodge Durango, and just some different things about it. It did have, because Chief Dean and I were questioning why it didn't have the Pursuit package. It does have a service package on it that would include the the wiring and the tires. That actually, it didn't include the tires. The tires are rated though at 110 miles an hour. That is not as good as a Pursuit tire, but it's still better than other trucks out there. That's what he said. It did have a good steering turning ratio, and it did have the heavy duty batteries that are needed for all the equipment that the officers and chief run. It doesn't, it's on here tonight, maybe to start this discussion. It doesn't have to be decided tonight, but I do believe that within the next couple weeks to a month, we should get this vehicle on order.
Yeah, if we lost, because Chief, remind me, the Charger was not the next one up to go, correct?
Well, originally when we started talking about parking the vehicle,
Yep.
It was decided to park the Tahoe, and we kept the Charger in the rotation, which is why you saw it parked for quite more often than not. Now with the issues with the Charger, we parked that, and now we're using the Tahoe. Tahoe is older. And at that time, it was probably my recommendation to get rid of the Tahoe. Fortunately, we still have it, so we can swap it out for the 14, or the Charger. So, yeah, I mean, I guess originally the thinking was to get rid of the Tahoe, but now it's the Charger.
Preference between the pickup and SUV still?
I think that the SUV is more practical for our uses. The cities and counties that get out into the county, I think the truck is probably better useful in the county area. You know, without going into a lot of detail, but when you're patrolling and you go to turn around to maybe go after somebody or whatever, and a truck takes a 3-point turnaround at least. By that time, the person you're after is gone. So the maneuverability is not as good as the SUV in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
I would get a price on then what you would think would be the best model and maybe that's to the council.
What is that?
Whatever he says, he didn't care for the truck. And what else is it?
The Durango.
The Durango.
The
That's
Durango,
that's what's
that's-
actually on the agenda. The 2023 Dodge Durango, in the amount of $41,726. That's what we currently have in our fleet. Another thing I don't think that anyone had thought of with our ever increasing gas prices. Now we have started to back off a little bit. I know just from experience, I have an Explorer now that gets upwards of 21, 22 miles a gallon. Never got more than 15 with my trucks. I think that would be going backwards. You may save money up front by buying a truck, but it's going to cost you more money in the long run. It also takes more oil.
Yeah. The other nice thing,
How does it take more oil on a truck versus a car?
Truck takes 6 quarts. Car only takes 5.
We have an expense line for the vehicles. I mean, I'm looking at a $4,000 savings buying a vehicle. That's what I'm looking at now. Dan, I had a talk with you and done a little research too. the pickup will do the same thing for the job. I think it's just preference what a person wants. To me, saving money on a purchase is what we should be looking at. If we'd have got if the mayor would have told me something bad about this, that this just is not wanted, it's the worst thing, and then I wouldn't have that thought process for a pickup. But I've been told it has the same equal value of turning. I got asked the other day if I could take my truck and my car and turn them on my block and get around in one swing, and I can. If anybody wants to come over, I'll show you. It will work. Not in this pickup, but it will work. A pickup versus my Monte Carlo, it does work. I think, and then the bottom line to this whole story is this: that down the road, umpteen years when we're probably not here, when you go to resale value or a department needs something, you got a pickup that you can hand to the street or the fire department, or if it gets decided at that time we want to sell it, we're going to get more than $2,000 or $3,000 out of the pickup. That's my whole contention of a pickup versus a car.
I'm with you on the $4,000 base price, Steve. My question to it, and I know no one up here will have the answer yet, so I don't know if Chief you'd be able to provide this yet. What's it going to cost to outfit it? Because this will be our first truck. It'll change.
It's in your packet.
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
terrible.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yep.
That's
I was looking at the SUV.
That's almost tripled. It was 7,500 last year and some change, and it's now 17,300
for the Durango.
Yep.
But
and it was
There's the
17.2
truck.
for the Durango, 17.3 for the truck.
Okay.
Right, I knew they were close.
Yeah, they're real
Okay.
close. That's not. Yeah. But that's how bad that has.
I don't know what all the options are for the cage, for example, in a truck. What I have seen with Hudson's setup, they have the back partitioned off so they can transport one arrestee, while the other half is open to the officer's use. Now, I don't know if there's some, more expense because that's kind of a custom thing. And I can't really speak to that right tonight, but I'd be curious to know what kind of expense that is.
Like I said, we don't have to make a decision tonight. We can table it, get more information. I just think that it would be in our best interest to get going on this sooner than later, just because the overall market right now.
So this would be actually part of 23, 20. No, 24,
Yeah, this is the
25 budget,
FY24
right?
budget. Yeah,
Okay.
we've already discussed
That's
that.
what I thought, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure, because I've seen it on that,
Yeah.
but I know we didn't have it on this one, and I'm like, okay, so how's that going to work? But if it doesn't come in until July,
Right.
okay, just
Yep.
making sure I'm thinking correctly.
Yes, I
Sorry.
understand.
So I guess, I would be okay with, like, just tabling it for now to discuss, to think about it a little bit more,
Mhm.
and make sure that, like, the truck, that extra space, how much it would cost us, because they are going to need that space, I feel like, because
Mhm.
they need to put stuff there.
Yeah.
There's no other place to
Oh,
put
yeah, they're
it.
loaded.
Right.
There's
Yep.
not a trunk or anything, so.
Right.
Unless we're going to put a topper on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you really have line of sight problems.
Mm-hmm.
I think they
Yeah.
need to be able to see everything, so.
Yep. I'll take a second.
What was the motion? I'm sorry.
Oh,
To
I
table.
motion
To table.
to table it, to discuss it.
Second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't oppose, I'm in favor.
No, that's okay.
You say aye too fast, I would say fast enough.
Oh no, you're fine.
Oh.
You're fine.
I know. You see me yesterday, it was way worse.
Number 14, you had asked Public Works Director Chris Shares to get some prices for you regarding speed humps. The intimate concern was right away was Pointer on Central for that traffic, and South Roosevelt for Bunger, because of how people are speeding in those areas, and there's obviously children there because they're the elementary and middle schools. So if you saw in your packet, the approximate cost for, and I don't remember right off the top of my head, I did a memo. It was like $2,500 for the one because it's dependent on the street width, and then it was like what, 35 other? Was it 1,500 on one, 25? Work with me. Can you tell me?
25 and 2820.
20, yeah, 2,500 and 2820 were the two.
So are these in comparison to the one that's like on Lafayette in Elk Run?
Yes.
So, Chris,
Exactly.
huh?
Exactly.
Do you like those? Like, for the, do you think the plow truck would be okay with those, or would you remove them in the wintertime?
No. We
They're
would just
huge.
go slow, lift over them,
You would?
plow over them.
And it wouldn't cause any problem? Okay. Because I went over it and I'm like,
As long as
you're
they
definitely not gonna
go
do any
slow
faster
and
than
lift the plow
25.
over.
Try fishing one time.
Unless you want to go, jump.
Yeah, Bishop got me too.
Idaho's got a big
In
one.
Milwaukee.
It's just, they're just big, and then I instantly thought about like the plow blades, and you guys are gonna have to slow down and go over.
We will, yep. We'll have to approach them with extreme caution.
Yeah.
There's 5 of them in Elk Run, and I'm thankful we don't have any right now, but for the safety of the kids, it's all determined on Mike and his staff on how many they want, where they're at, and we'll just have to deal with it.
Are those aren't removable?
None of them
No,
are.
they're cement.
They did temporary ones for like 2 years and did some running study with maybe Chief Dean, but I have no idea about any of the stuff in Elk Run, but then I know they went permanent with them.
Well, I think removable would kind of suck just because you have to get and remove them all the time.
Well, it was actually brought up by a resident in Elk Run that those removable style are not rated for actual road use. They're more for a parking lot. And I think that largely had to do with why they went to what they have now.
I think it's a good tool for the school area, safety, kids walk. I do know that the people over there I've had talks with say people speed there after school, not necessarily during school because the buses and crowd. But I think it'd be a great deterrent to have them there to slow it down. People are going to know, oh my God, yeah, this isn't here. We're not supposed to go 50. I'm all for it. I brought it up and I'm all for doing it. It was just discussion. My action would be to authorize Chris to have it done, but it would take the vote of the council if they want to do it.
Or we have budget items, Mayor?
Yeah, now, just to give you the heads up though, that is not going to be until, because Aspro is done cooking. So this will not take place until April. Were they going to stick behind their costs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We spoke about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should say their price. Yeah, I'll take a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for speed bumps at the 2 schools that's posted.
The question I just had, well, city street department budget, was there a specific line item? Because I know we don't have speed bumps.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it would
do we know what item?
It could be tons of items
That's
like
where I was
project
going,
materials.
There are road use,
Project materials, street maintenance, street expenses. Yeah.
Okay.
And then ruin your bicycle riding.
We're gonna get them new bike lanes on Lafayette, Ron. Stick with me.
Yeah, pull me.
Well, you can still ride your bicycle over it. You like to jump?
He's the only one in this town that doesn't ride his bicycle.
When I go over, it'd be like that.
Well,
That's what he stated in a public meeting.
Let's see if it costs you.
Nobody uses the trails.
So when would this be
Oh,
done,
and-
Mayor?
What's that?
When would this be done? April or now?
April.
April. Okay. Just wanted to know.
So be ready for wrap up of this year and good for next year's school season. And then just the summer and everything else with the parks and the kids playing at school and whatever. So
Sounds good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Request from Fire Chief Phillips to dispose of outdated Jaws of Life. He's not going to be tossing those. He is going to be checking prices around, and we'll try to see if we can. The difference is they're mechanical, and the new one that we have that we got a grant for is battery operated. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. Hydraulic.
Hydraulic. Okay.
I'll approve their request for his investigation on the Jaws of Life.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 686, amending Evansdale City Code, Chapter 147, Section 12. First reading. All I'm adding in there is just giving the availability for waterworks to assess stormwater fees. Because right now our code had not addressed that. It still stated the city, our wastewater fees, our garbage fees, and now they'll be able to assess also our stormwater fees because it wasn't named in there when it was originally, when the stormwater fee originally was created.
So what does it do? Come to the council before the council to assess the fees if they change, or?
No, it does not. It goes right through waterworks.
For non-payment. So this
For
is if
non-payment.
somebody's not paying.
This is for non-payment.
For non-payment, okay.
Yep.
But on this section, it said by the council. So if it was not, I mean,
we're changing it.
Yeah.
To utility billing.
Utility billing, but prior to that, what did they do? They still did the same thing. It's not changing. Might not make sense.
Well, stormwater fee hasn't been around that long.
Oh, okay.
So we hadn't gotten to the point where we addressed it yet.
Okay. No,
Yeah. And it's a small fee too. It's only $1 a month. So I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Osborne.
Aye, yes, I'm sorry.
Siebel.
Yes.
Smock.
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
Nichols.
Would anyone like a motion to waive the second and third reading?
I'd like to leave. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
I had some residents ask me about this, and I'm just asking for a clarification that I was told that on some of these things, we should let it go for the second and third reading rather than pushing this stuff through. If somebody wanted to say something about it.
It was just a request. You don't have to do it.
In fact, Steve, I'll do this. I would rather not pass it through.
Okay.
Just so now that we've put it on, I would like it to go ahead and remain on the next agenda for any public
Absolutely
discussion.
perfect. Okay.
Thank you, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that.
And you got your roll call, right?
Yep.
Number 17, discussion action. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to review the purchasing policies, but I know that it has been mentioned several times about updating ours. Ours is has been utilized, mainly for grants and such. I did. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to review these or any thoughts in regards to Waukee or City of Ankeny.
Okay. Overall, I like it. And with Christy, I could certainly see if we needed to kind of tune it up a little bit. I'd be fine with that. I guess for me, and this is of course open for further input, my next step is to send these. I have a few tweaks, but rather than me speak just mine, I'd almost like to send them to the department heads, of which who will have to be bound by this purchasing policy.
Okay.
Because I also want to make sure we're not tying their hands if they foresee any major issues. So before we really put it in, I'd just like some input. That way I can put it in with my input.
Excellent.
That would be my recommendation as a next step.
Okay.
I like that too.
All right. Perfect. We'll discuss it at our department head meeting on Monday.
Yeah, sorry not to keep kicking it further down the road,
No,
but I think
I'm fine.
as a next
Just
step.
like you
No,
say,
the
we don't
important
want
thing
to
is we're
do
addressing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when we get it done and we tweak it, can we see the whole thing done like with Evansdale?
Oh yeah, of course. It would. This is not a
You know what
fast
Waukee's
process.
logo set up on the top? I mean, we can just jack it and steal it for ourselves, right? Just
I just need to be able to read it. Read it.
no, I was saying leave their logo and we'll just
Yeah.
cross it off. And
Yeah. Evansdale.
So you both like Waukee better than Ankeny, or you were?
The majority of it I liked was just more the simplistic of the Waukee.
Yeah.
Because where Ankeny did have some more stipulations and stuff, but there were some things in Ankeny that I still did like.
Yeah.
Again, just trying to make sure that with anything, you make it overly complicated, it just
Right.
makes it tougher to figure out later.
Well,
Right.
and, like you said, Waukee's got some good parts and Ankeny's got some good parts, so we can find like a middle ground
Yep.
within those parts.
And yeah, I'm like, I want to make it like simple so that we don't have to. I want it so that like if the department head goes and says, well, what's the process I need to follow? They can say, okay, this, and this.
Yeah, that's a process. Yep.
Yeah. That's
Perfect.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's great. So we will just go with that, and if anyone wants to send me any of the updates that they thought would be good, Justin, you just said that. That'd be awesome. We'll take the time to go over it with the department heads. Mayor council reports. I just have just a couple things. I wanted to state a special thank you to everybody that came out on Saturday at 13 degrees and 5 below wind chill and gave for the Salvation Army. We were within probably $60 of the winner, which was Cedar Falls this year, and then I think $30 from Waterloo. So, but you got to consider there's 68 population in Waterloo and 38,000 in Cedar Falls. So we did great. So thank you very much. Also, last week I was invited to speak at a Grow Cedar Valley event. We had several Grow Cedar Valley members there. Actually, it was in excess of 100 people there. And actually, even was within 1 hour, I had a email from a developer, and we have an appointment on Friday. So it was a very good meeting. Got to brag about Evansdale. That's what it was about. And Mayor Hart was there, Mayor Green was there, and Mayor Hoffman is the mayor of Waverly. So we all got to boast a little bit about our cities and let them know what's going on. So it was really great event.
Awesome, good job. That's great.
Council.
Did you ever have a follow, Mayor, that when I called about
Yeah.
Jeff? Is there any update for us? Or
I haven't. Nope. Nope. I haven't received any response back from
Probably
them.
too late for us, and
Huh?
probably too late for us to get any conversation with them then.
Yeah, I don't know. I did contact them though.
I did get the opportunity this last Saturday. Some may have seen it float around on social media and stuff, but Lofty's hosted the Cedar Valley Youth Sports Association's fundraiser.
Yes.
Luncheon, silent auction. I think they even live auctioned off a bachelor, one of their vice president, if I remember correctly. So that came up. So, but I did get a chance to talk with Wanda, our animal control officer, Wanda, who basically stated from the minute the doors opened at noon until well past 4. I know I stopped back up after 5, and they were just finally starting to kind of break down, that it was packed wall to wall. I know Wanda stated she had sold $2,200 in raffle tickets prior to the event, the week just before, on top of everything else. So again, this was really, we had all kind of asked the ones that were sat to the park board stuff, or then here, they're potentially starting from scratch. So where are you going to come up with that funding to try to get yourself started? I think they've got a good start, and I hope it was a fantastic start for them. So
no, that's awesome.
I've not heard any official numbers or anything, but it was all set up by volunteers and donations and everything, and they had a great turnout. So I'm hoping this is something looking very positive for our youth sports this coming next year.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good.
Good info.
Thanks for the info, yeah.
Anyone else on council? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I was going to say, come on, Ron,
All in
that's
favor?
your call.
Opposed?
Yep, I was waiting. That's normally Ron.